Big one.
Big one.
How do you know?
Because that's what kids want to do. They want to pick the
Exactly.
biggest one to please the person that you just asked.
Okay, but what if there's a whole bunch of little ones? You can collect all those little ones and bring those to me.
That
Instead
would
of
be
just one big
cute.
one.
That'd be very cute, yes.
Okay? So the color of the flower, does that have any indication about whether the flower is big or small?
No?
Separate. Okay, let's try this again. I have two vehicles at home. I have a gray one and a brown one. One of them is a sedan, the other one is an SUV. So if I say I drove my brown vehicle to the grocery store, which vehicle did I drive? The brown one, yeah. But which one of the vehicles did I drive? The SUV or the sedan? We don't know. Okay,
No, yeah.
good. We're all on the same page. We don't know. Because different labels mean different things. I'm about to tell you two different categories of triangles. And I want you to make sure you're understanding the labels. So we have stable triangles. Stable triangles resist change. Unstable triangles are wanting to change. Now, words don't have meanings, they get meanings. So stable might sound good. Oh, this is stable. But sometimes stability is not good, right? Sometimes it's not good, especially if it keeps us entrenched in something. So the labels of stable versus unstable are not about functional or dysfunctional, adaptive or maladaptive. It's just talking about the triangle itself. The triangle that's stable is resisting change. It wants to stay the way that it is. Unstable triangles doesn't mean it's dysfunctional or healthy or not healthy. It has nothing to do with the health of the triangle. An unstable triangle just wants to change. Almost like if you're sitting on, so at our house we have these little chairs that rise up next to the counter, and the four legs of this chair, three of them have a little tiny pad at the bottom. The fourth leg does not have a pad, which means I can kind of rock around a little bit. And I'm always looking for a better spot to be in. That's an unstable triangle. An unstable triangle is wanting to change. A stable triangle is wanting to stay the same. So when I use the terms stable triangle or unstable triangle, am I talking about the health of the triangle? No. I'm talking about whether or not the triangle is wanting to change when it's unstable or resistant to change when it's stable. We on board with this?
Okay.
Okay, I'm guessing we're going to go over this several times. Because if I'm not a good teacher, I can always lean on repetition. Change is not necessarily good or bad. It depends on what's happening. And staying the same is not necessarily good or bad. It depends on the situation. So triangles themselves have power. I want you to step away from this idea of three-person emotional configuration, which triangles are. I just spent the last hour and a half talking about that. But I want you to consider the triangles themselves as having specific characteristics, separate from the people in them. But the triangle itself has power. And the stability of the triangle predicts whether or not the triangle itself is wanting to change. So stable triangles want to stay the same, and unstable triangles want to change. And if you can understand this, awesome. If you don't understand it, that's okay. We're going to be going over this over and over and over the next hour. So, do the labels of stable or unstable describe the amount of dysfunction in the triangle? No. Stable or unstable is just talking about whether or not triangles are wanting to change or resistant to change. It doesn't mean they can't change or they're going to change. It just means they're more inclined to change or they're more resistant to change. So stable triangles, the triangle itself is resisting change. And unstable triangles, the triangle itself wants to change. So I want you to see the triangle as having its own characteristics. So here are the two types of stable triangles. Stable triangles want to stay the way that they are, and these are two examples. 3 people, 1 big happy family, or 2 people with a common enemy. Both of these are stable triangles, and stable triangles want to stay the same. Here are 2 unstable triangles, and these 2 unstable triangles want to change. Here's These two people don't get along, but they get along with this third person. This third person's caught in the middle. In this situation, nobody gets along with anyone else. So stable triangles want to stay the same. Unstable triangles want to change. Good. Okay, this is good. So here's an example of a stable triangle. All these individuals get along. Naomi, Boaz, and Ruth. One big happy family. And stable triangles want to stay the same. Awesome. Good. Here's another one. In Genesis 16, Abram, Sarah, and Hagar. This is a stable triangle at this point in time in the story. So this is a stable triangle right now. And stable triangles resist change. Doesn't mean they can't change, but they resist change. But we know that this triangle changes later on, right? There's some distress that Hagar and Sarai experience. But right now, at Genesis 16, verse 2 and 3, there's a stable triangle right here. Exodus 2. We have Miriam, baby Moses, Pharaoh's daughter. Oh, and Jochebed. Oh, look at this. Oh boy, look, this is our first foray into 4 people in multiple triangles. There are 4 triangles here, and all of them are stable. This works out for everybody. And stable triangles, what do? They don't want to change. Awesome. Good. All of these triangles are stable. Here we go. No bond is stronger than 2 workers who hate the same person. Me, my bestie coworker, and the new coworker we don't like, we're here having our snack, and we both agree that we don't like this person. This is also a stable triangle because we can both agree that this person is different or weird or we don't like them, and we are in agreement, and this is a stable triangle. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's right. So I am a Seahawks fan. I am not a Patriots fan. I will never get along with the Patriots. So I am always for whoever is playing against the Patriots. And we have a stable triangle. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is a stable triangle. And stable triangles, they want to remain the same. They resist change. Good. Here we go. Genesis 3:15, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, between her seed and your seed. So God is saying, so we know there's conflict here. That's not going to change. As God created humanity, it was like this. And he's saying, I'm going to put enmity between you and the woman. He's saying, basically, I'm going to create a stable triangle that is resistant to change. Doesn't mean it can't change. In fact, people in the triangle might want it to change, right? This individual right here wants it to change. This individual wants something to happen in the triangle to shift, either to repair this relationship or to cause some doubt here. In fact, this is how the deceiver got Eve to buy in. Are you sure God has your best interest in mind? Ooh, does he now? Introduce some conflict down here to potentially, maybe there's something here that I haven't really considered. So this individual is trying to change the triangle, even though the triangle itself is set up resistant to change. Here is an unstable triangle, and this is the triangle that causes me the most challenges, because this is a hard triangle to be in. If you're here at the top and you're Y, and you get along with X and you get along with Z, all you want for them to do is figure a way to get past this so we can be friends again. It's really hard being a friend with you and being a friend with you when you two are going at it. It's an unpleasant situation to be in. So it could be you and your partner and your parents. Maybe your partner and your parents don't necessarily get along. This is an unstable triangle. And unstable triangles want to change. That's right. Unstable triangles want to become stable. That's what they want. Or maybe you and your friend and your other friend, they don't get along, but you wish they did, then we could all hang out. Or maybe you and your teenager and your partner, and there's some beef between them or some conflict, and you just want them to just work it out. So here's the path. So up here are unstable triangles, and unstable triangles want to change, and they want to become stable. When you're here, the only option to become stable is here. If you're here, The triangle itself wants to change. It has two choices, here or here. And most often what happens is we get stuck between this right upper unstable and this lower left stable. And we bounce back and forth. We can get stuck there. And this is really, really challenging to be in those sort of triangles. Matthew 6:34, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Here's me, master one and master two. I'm going to have difficulty if those two masters don't get along. I'm going to be forced to pick a side, or at least that's what they want me to do. Not because the masters want me to do it, but because the triangle is nudging me in that direction. Because unstable triangles want to change. And the way that an unstable triangle can become stable is for one of these legs of the triangle to change. Either these two start getting along, or I experience distress with master number one, and all of a sudden, me and master number two, we get along and we have a common enemy. So I want you to see the triangles as having their own idea about I'm unstable and I want to become stable. I don't care what it is. So here is an unstable triangle, potentially. We have an individual who is trying to lead the church, and maybe there are some people in the church that are team drums, and there might be some people in the church that are team no drums. And if that's the case, this individual is trying to support both sides, even if they want different things. We call this monkey in the middle, caught in the middle, right? Because you're trying to take care of both sides, but they don't see eye to eye. How about this situation? Whether you're team law or team grace, this individual might be trying to care and support individuals that may not necessarily get along. And this can be difficult to be in the middle of the situation because the more we get involved in other people's distress, the more we experience the distress of that relationship. So I don't know what's happening at home if we have cats or dogs at home, but maybe there are cats and dogs and maybe they're wanting you to pick a side. So I don't know where you all land on this, but when it comes to pets, that's a big decision that families have to make. I don't know what happened here. It looks like these individuals just took off their masks, or maybe they need masks if they're in public. I don't know what happened here with the church when it came to COVID time. There might have been some people here at the church that were like, I don't want to wear masks. I don't want to do that because of a whole bunch of reasons, whether it's because we need to have faith in God, and I don't want to do what the government is telling me to do. There might have been some people who are like, I want to wear masks, and I'm still wearing masks because that's what's going to be best for me. So what happens when there's people on both sides who disagree about the policies about wearing masks? That could potentially cause some tension in the church. Is this right? Okay. How about this? Blue Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. Depending on which side you're on, it could be difficult to get along with the other side, and then we have some pastors who are trying to minister to both sides. Depending on your reaction to COVID, if you wanted to pursue alternative ways to respond to COVID, or if you want to get a vaccine, there are different ways to respond, and maybe this person or these people in the middle are trying to figure out, okay, how do we make sure to support and minister to both sides, even when these sides maybe don't see eye to eye. So depending on how you see what's happening to our earth, whether global warming is just God hugging us closer, or global warming is just people hugging trees. Depending on how you see this, you may not necessarily get along with the other side, but we have some people who are trying to befriend and minister to both sides. Had a conversation with them before coming about what the color of the carpet was. And they said it's not chartreuse and it is not burnt orange, so we are safe. But making decisions about what color of carpet to put down can be a polarizing topic. And anytime there's a polarizing topic, it can be challenging to support both sides because each side is wanting you to pick a side and pick their side. And it may not just be them wanting it, the triangle itself is seeking stability. So, later on in the story, first it was Genesis 16, now we're here in Genesis 21. Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar, look at their names changed. Now there's distress between them. Why is there distress between them? I hear because another person is now part of this. Who's the other person? Ishmael isn't even out of the womb yet, but is already affecting their relationship. Boom. And now when baby comes, it's clear that Sarah wants to have nothing to do with this baby. So Hagar has an enemy, and Ishmael is an enemy. So this triangle right here, this is actually a stable triangle. The upper one is unstable. Are we seeing this? So we're going to turn this around. We're going to rotate it just so you can see we can draw the triangle in any way we want. And we're going to talk about the triangles in this family. So let's rotate this. So with Sarah, Hagar, and Abraham, this is unstable. And unstable triangles want to change. Good. We're going to bring Isaac and Ishmael into it both. It seems like Abraham has a good relationship with both. If you were here last night, we talked about how Abraham is not a morning person. He got up 3 times, and each of them had to do with the last time he might see his son in camp. He was really interested in caring for all of them. We know Sarah and Isaac and Abraham, they all get along. So is this triangle stable or unstable?
Stable.
Good. The upper right triangle is stable. How about here? Hagar, Abraham, and Ishmael. Is this stable or unstable?
Stable.
Awesome. So we have a few triangles right now, right? But we're not done, because we haven't talked about the relation between Sarah and Ishmael or between Hagar and Isaac. So we'll have to add some more here. So we know that Ishmael ends up Isaacing Isaac is what the verb is. He ends up teasing Isaacing Isaac, and that's what leads Sarah to say, send this maidservant and the boy away. There's some tension that's happening between these individuals. So Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael, this triangle right here, is this stable or unstable?
Unstable.
This is unstable because there's 2 people who experience conflict, and Abraham's trying to maintain a good relationship with both of them. So this one right here is an unstable triangle. Now we have Sarah that does not get along with Ishmael. So Hagar, Sarah, and Ishmael, is this stable or unstable? I hope I heard stable, because Hagar and Ishmael have a common enemy, so this is stable. How about Sarah, Isaac, and Ishmael? Is this stable or unstable?
Unstable.
This is also stable because Sarah and Isaac get along and they have a common enemy, Ishmael. So, do the words stable or unstable have anything to do with the amount of health or dysfunction in the triangle? It should be no. Stable and unstable are just labels to talk about whether or not the triangle is resistant to change or the triangle wants to change. There's a lot of dysfunction here in this family right now. Can we agree with that? And there's a mix of stable and unstable triangles in this family. This is beginning to look like a mess. So what is Sarah's sweet solution? Get rid of them, right? Let's simplify the situation. Kick them out of town. Oh, so much better. And because you remove people from the family, does it mean the anxiety disappears? No, it is still present. It just gets redistributed amongst the rest of the family members, or just becomes latent. It does not disappear. We are just shoveling anxiety around or shoveling it underneath the carpet. It does not disappear. Triangles are forever. Just because someone moves away or passes away does not mean the anxiety they were participating in disappears. So here's an unstable triangle. Nobody gets along with anyone else. So Jacob, Leah, and Laban. Here's an unstable triangle. So unstable triangles over here. Stable triangle down here, another unstable triangle, another stable triangle. So these triangles are resistant to change. These triangles up here are wanting to change. All right, someone asked me a question before I move on. Interpret the silence in 3 ways. I did a great job explaining it. We're starting to feel the effects of lunch. We don't know what kind of questions to ask.
I'm puzzled by you saying that a triangle wants to change. It seems like a triangle has 3 people in it, and so you might have multiple opinions about whether this triangle should change or not.
The people's opinions.
Yes.
But the triangle is a third entity. There's a 4th entity. There's 3 people, and the triangle itself. I want you to think of the triangle as its own character. The triangle itself is just like the chair that I'm on that moves around. That chair is trying to seek stability. Whether or not I want it to, because some people may want it to change. There might be two people who want it to change and one who doesn't. But the triangle is separate from the people or the parties in the triangle.
So, okay, so you have, let's say, common enemy.
Okay? You and I have a
So-
common enemy.
Right, you and I have a common enemy.
Yep.
We're both perfectly happy with our position.
Yep.
The outsider isn't,
Correct.
okay?
The enemy does not like what's happening.
But,
But this is a stable triangle. The triangle itself is resisting change, even though the enemy may want things to change.
right,
But the triangle itself, the characteristic of the triangle, is more robust and resistant to change. Doesn't mean it can't change, but it's resistant to change. Okay. So triangles themselves have power. Because of this, triangles themselves are influencing our interactions with other people. Yes?
Is it possible with the previous slide, is it possible to go from one to the other, or do you have to follow the arrows to get to
Good
the
question.
clear, stable one?
So if I'm understanding your question, if you're up here where nobody gets along with anyone else, can you go directly from here all the way over to here?
Yeah, or to the other unstable, but you know what I mean, like
Yes.
instead of having to follow them.
Good. Usually, you have to follow this path. Sometimes things magically get resolved, and you just jump from one place to the next. But you usually have to go through these different gates. And let's notice that this is not always the goal. Stability for everyone getting along is not always the goal. We don't want that. If I have a drug addiction and I have a gambling addiction and we're all getting along, that's a problem, right? Even though it's stable, it's resistant to change, but that's not necessarily a good thing, because stable and unstable, those labels have nothing to do with the amount of dysfunction in the triangle. It's just about whether or not the triangle is resistant to change. Good. So maybe you're like, I don't really understand the difference between stable and unstable right now, and at this point I'm afraid to ask, which might be another way to interpret the questions you're afraid to ask the questions. So we're going to have some opportunity to talk about this in our small groups. Groups of 3, 4, 5, or 6. Try and answer these questions. What is the difference between stable versus unstable triangles? Can you draw or provide an example of a stable triangle? Can you draw or provide an example of an unstable triangle? So go ahead and get in your groups and try this out. Okay, who wants another minute? Raise your hand if you want another minute. Okay, I'm still feeling generous. You get one more minute. All right, help me out. What's the difference between stable and an unstable triangle? Stable is resistant to change. Doesn't mean the triangle can never change, it's just a little more resistant to it. Good. And what's an unstable triangle? The triangle that is unstable wants to change, and it wants to become stable. Good. So can you provide an example of a stable triangle for us? Good. There's two co-workers that get along, and they both agree that the new employee or the new boss is bad. That's a stable triangle. Good. What's an example of an unstable triangle? In the back over there.
So one example of an unstable triangle could be all three people involved want to change because there is conflict among all three.
Good. There's conflict amongst all three. Sometimes the people might want to change, maybe not, but the triangle itself sure wants to change. The triangle itself definitely wants to change. Good. Awesome. Good. Yes. Hand over here. Let's get the microphone over here. That'll help everyone. Thank you, Jared.
I have a question. Just by any chance at one point we can see a healthy or a functional triangle? Or there's always, I know humans are very complex, and most of the time we're dealing with so many things, but at one point can we think or say like it's gonna be a functional triangle?
Okay. What do you mean by functional?
Functional means like no, pretty much when you were saying about stable, that for example, if there's addiction, of course that probably they don't want to change.
So if I'm addicted to
But I would say
substance-
like something that is gonna be more kind of like functional means like everything works well in that triangle, that everyone has, I don't know, they get along well, there's no kind of like behaviors or things that at one point are just like creating.
Okay, good. So again, what's tricky is the labels of stable versus unstable make us kind of think, well, some triangles have more dysfunction than others. But it's stable and unstable are not about the amount of dysfunction or how healthy the triangle is. Stable and unstable are only speaking to whether the triangles are resistant to change or want to change. If you remember back 3 years ago, about this time, there was this big push 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Do you remember that? 2 weeks to flatten the curve. The idea was, if everyone bands together, you and I, against COVID, we'll flatten the curve. That was the idea. So it creates this, you and I are both against COVID, creates this stable triangle. So that was important for this situation. When we look at this, sometimes all of these could be good, or all of these could be bad. This can be very dysfunctional, or it could be very, very, very functional. Same thing with this one. This could be functional or dysfunctional, functional, dysfunctional. This could also be functional or dysfunctional. So it's not about which one of these is best all the time. It's more about the context, the situation. What are the triangles about? I wish I had a clearer answer than that, but in certain situations, this triangle is preferable. In other situations, we want this triangle. Other times we want this. So it really depends on what's going on. Okay. All right. Spouse A has 2 friends. And these 2 friends suddenly don't get along. And this is too bad because spouse A used to go out for breakfast, would get waffles with friend A and friend B. They used to all 3 of them go together to get waffles. But for some reason, these 2 friends started not getting along because this person didn't give enough time or attention, or didn't bring a good birthday gift, or whatever the reason. It doesn't really matter the reason. But now they experience conflict. So spouse A has a good friendship with friend A and has a good friendship with friend B. And is this triangle stable or unstable? This is an unstable triangle, which means the triangle itself wants to change. Good. And this is really difficult for spouse A because on Mondays they used to always go and get waffles. Every Monday. But now these 2 friends won't get waffles with her. So unfortunately, she has to go to waffles on Monday with friend A and then waffles on Wednesday with friend B, which in and of itself is not bad, getting waffles twice a week, right? But now we can't all go together, which is the real reason we were going, right? So spouse A has a conversation with spouse B. Hey, honey, what should I do about this? We used to all go get waffles, but now we can't. What do you think we should do? So what's happening is, this person is experiencing the distress of these 2, and that's too much for this person to handle. And now this person is sharing that distress with spouse B. Good news, spouse B has already formed an opinion. Spouse B likes friend A. Spouse B does not like friend B. So let's look at what's happening. So spouse A, spouse B, friend A, is this triangle stable or unstable?
Stable.
Good. Spouse A, spouse B, and friend B, stable or unstable?
Unstable.
Unstable. This is good. Spouse B, friend A, friend B, stable or unstable? Stable. Good. So there's a mix of stable and unstable triangles here. We seeing this? Spouse B never went to waffles at all. But because they heard this story, they formed an opinion. Now there's some triangles that are looking for change and some triangles that are resistant to change. Let's play this out a little bit more. Say it's the same spouse A and spouse B. They're experiencing some distress. So spouse B thinks, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk to my parents about this. So these 2 people have some distress, and spouse B talks to their parent about the distress in this romantic relationship. Well, parent of B is going to side with spouse B, right? And because of that, they did what to you? How did they treat you? Is this triangle stable or unstable? Stable. Good. Because there's a common enemy, right? See that? Okay. Well, spouse A also has a parent. I'm going to talk with my parent, and my parent's going to side with me. Wait, hold on a second. So your partner talked with their parents? That should never happen. That is out of line, right? And these parents also are on social media together or have cell phones. So there's some distress, some spicy comments online to each other about this. So let's look at this. Top left, so we have parent A, parent B, spouse A. So this triangle is stable or unstable? Stable. Stable, good. Parent of A, parent of B, and spouse B, stable or unstable? Stable is a common enemy, good. Parent of B, spouse A, spouse B, stable or unstable? Stable. Parent of A and both spouses, stable or unstable? Stable. So all of these triangles are stable. All of these 4 triangles are going to be resistant to change. Doesn't mean they can't change, but they're going to be more resistant to change. But there's a lot of dysfunction here, right? Luckily, spouse A and spouse B decide to work out their differences and repair their relationship, and in doing so, they automatically change 2 triangles. When they repair their relationship, suddenly, parent of A and both spouses, this is an unstable triangle. Suddenly, parent of B and both spouses, this is also an unstable triangle. And unstable triangles seek change. Unstable triangles want to become stable. So what happens now is, spouse B is like, look, can you just let it go? You're coming over for Thanksgiving. I don't want you holding on to this grudge with my partner, which is not even your partner, so just can you just let it go? And the parent of B's like, well, how can I let it go? And they mistreated you this way. It wasn't that big of a deal. They just, they spent maybe $50 over budget. Like, we worked through it. Can you be an adult and just let it go? Because right now the triangle is seeking stability. Over here, so because parent of A is still holding on, parent of B is still holding on to this distress, spouse B is like, look, I don't even know if I want you coming over for Thanksgiving. You're going to be treating us like this. So now there's some distress here between them, and now this is suddenly a stable triangle. Okay? Spouse A talks with parent of A and says, look, I probably should have come to talk with you in the first place. Besides, my partner and I, we worked it out. We went to therapy. We're good now. Can you just drop it? So parent of A says, you know what, you're right. You're both adults. I should have never gotten involved in the first place. I'll back off. If you trust them, they're good with me. So this creates a stable triangle. So now, all of these triangles here are all stable again. But which individual is still experiencing distress with everyone else? Parent of B. Why? Doesn't want to let go of stuff, right? And now because of that, in fact, because they were first willing to get involved in the first place, now everyone's mad at them. At the very beginning, if this person said, whoa, hold on a second, why are you talking to me about your romantic relationship? This sounds like a you thing. This is not mine to take care of. Then everyone wouldn't be mad at them. But because this person was willing to get roped into other people's stuff, and then the triangle shifted, and now everyone's frustrated with them. And triangles are forever. Just because someone passes away or leaves does not mean that anxiety disappears. Every behavior is a symptom of the system, and some of our behaviors are symptoms of the triangles wanting to seek stability or avoiding stability. All right, let's talk about a community garden in Duval County, Florida. Anyone ever been there? It's near Jacksonville. Okay. Every behavior is a symptom of the system. Good. So in this scenario, we have some individuals who are green thumbs. They're really good at gardening. They're just like everything they touch grows and produces. So they are able to plant and grow and tend the community garden and produce fruit and vegetables from all around the world for the people who live there. And the whole community benefits, right? So they're able to do this garden and take care of it, so the people are able to have some food, and they're so thankful for these faithful few green thumb gardeners, and everyone all gets along. So is this a stable or unstable triangle? Good. There's some more people who come, and they're like, hey, we heard about this garden, we just moved to the area, like what's going on? Hey, yeah, there's enough food for everybody. Let's spread this food around. Oh, I'm so thankful you're doing this. And then they decide to join the community full time. So there's more people in the community now. but the same few people who are working the garden. Over time, as time went on, there was a need for more food because there's more people in the community. And some of these people who were gardening, like, they got pulled off to other activities, other responsibilities. So now there's even fewer people tending the garden. They love their work. They love tending the garden. They love producing the harvest. They love all that stuff. But it's a lot of work to weed and rake and hoe and plant and water and trim and prune and harvest and water. It's a lot of work, right? A lot of work. So now the few faithful gardeners do even more of the lion's share of the work because other people got pulled off to do other things. So there's a big garden that everyone is benefiting from, and the whole community is benefiting, and there's more people coming. So, how will these faithful few gardeners potentially begin to feel about their gardening responsibilities? Overwhelmed, stressed, what do you mean? Resentful, why would they start to become resentful? They're doing it, but they love gardening. They love gardening. Why would they become resentful?
The expectation.
The expectation, what do you mean?
Because it was kind of organized beforehand and the triangles was kind of expected, now they feel that they need to continue serving at the same level and outputting the same amount.
Yes, and maybe even producing more. There's more people coming, right? So the responsibility has gotten a little bit more, right? Because there's more people who are benefiting from this. So potentially, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but potentially they could become a little resentful that they are the only people tending the garden. And if that happens, there's a chance that they might have some secret distress about what's happening because this whole community is benefiting, but only a few people are putting their gloves on. And they may start to not enjoy gardening as much and see gardening as a chore, whereas before they enjoyed it, right? That's why they started in the first place. So, what might be the gardener's narrative or story about themselves in relation to the community? It started out as, I wanted to do this, and I was excited about it, and the whole community was on board. I was planting this garden, now we're doing this, and then what happened? It became an overwhelming job because I was doing it all of a sudden. It was us, uppercase U, us, and now it's lowercase u, us, just a few of us doing this. Good. Or maybe people were taking advantage of them, right?
Yep.
Or everyone left me. Good. So if we have these narratives that like, it became overwhelming, people left me, I'm not enjoying it anymore, how do you think their ability to help the garden grow, how will that affect the produce and the product and the harvest? Might that change? Yeah, okay. And not only them having narratives, but these people start to develop narratives. Oh, this is great. Only these few people can take care of the whole garden, and we're okay with it. And everyone's happy right now, because they may not know how these individuals are feeling. Because not always do we share the distress we're experiencing with someone else. Sometimes we keep that secret, because we're worried what's going to happen if I share my distress, how the other people are going to respond. So what do you think these gardeners might want or need from this community? Any ideas?
Help.
Participation. Okay,
Yeah.
what else? Appreciation. Good. What else? Help. What does help look like? Work. But I'm not a green thumb. How can I help?
Well, they can teach them.
Okay, they could teach him. Okay. What else? Limits. What do you mean by limits?
Like maybe setting limits on how much is actually going to be produced.
Yeah, but the whole community needs me. How can I set limits when everyone is counting on me? Ask for help. Okay. Okay. So we've identified a few things here. Good. Adjust the expectations. Okay, what do you mean? Hey, it's too much. It's impossible
Right,
for
right.
just us to do all of this. Yeah? Okay. Oops. So how could their community respond? So we already talked about some of that. Okay. So we're not actually talking about this community garden in Florida. We're actually talking a little bit about Simi Valley SDA, some of the ministries that are happening here, and some of the participation that's happening in the church family. Every behavior is a symptom of the system. And from what I've heard, there might be a few people who are participating in lots of different ways, and the whole community is benefiting. And sometimes the good and generous people who like to volunteer and commit to helping and serving will end up feeling like they got the short end of the stick because of the lack of support or appreciation, even though everyone is benefiting in the community. Or they can't keep up with the demand because that's grown. And it can feel like maybe they're not allowed to set boundaries because they've already committed to help. So how can I stop myself from helping when I've already committed to do this, but there's not enough help to really do all this? So what do? Do I burn myself out? Because I said I would make sure to have a harvest of tomatoes and broccoli and zucchini and bell peppers and corn and carrots and am I going to just force myself to do that till I burn out and that I want to have nothing to do with the garden? This means that a few end up over-functioning for the whole group. And this can lead to perceived need to control. Either I need to control what happens because if I'm going to be responsible, I need to have a whole bunch of control over this, or perceived perpetual unfairness. And usually both of these will end up in bitterness or resentfulness over a long period of time. And usually this causes people to burn out. So, some other people in the community might actually want to help, they just don't have green thumbs. So it can feel like, well, how can I help out when I'm not gifted in this area? But they have narratives about this, like, okay, I'm just waiting for the right person to ask me. Or maybe I think that I would be crossing a cultural or social boundary or propriety to volunteer when I'm not even sure if I can commit to all of this, but maybe I can hold a rake, maybe, if I'm willing to, if other people are willing to let me hold a rake or hold the hose for a little bit. Maybe there's concern that other people may not appreciate their particular blend of gifts and talents. You may not be able to produce tomatoes as well as someone else, but at least you're helping out in the garden. So how the few are burdened with the weight of responsibility and deduce that they cannot commit to that, even though they could commit to small things. So maybe these other people see the few that are over-functioning and think, well, I don't want to do that. I have so much going on in my own life, I don't want to do that. I could do this, but I can't do all that. And that might also prevent people from volunteering to help out. Or maybe they don't want to have responsibilities or chores at church because they have difficulty completing their chores at home. Our house is not always clean all the time with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Portions of the house are clean, and we try the best we can to keep up, but we're always just a little bit behind. Unless people come over, then it looks good. But it's like you hold your breath as you're swimming underwater, and then you get to their end, and then we allow the kids to play. And then it just, there's always a never-ending list of chores to be done. So why would I want to do chores at church when I can't get even chores done at home? So what's happening here, big question mark, what I don't want to happen, and I'm not in charge, what part of me is concerned about as a visitor, again, I'm not part of this church family, so as an outsider, as I'm thinking about this, well, what we don't want to do is leave these individuals hanging out to dry, just doing everything for everyone else. So what could this church and community do? Maybe they can help out in different ways. They can come in, we can teach them. Someone can hold the hose, someone can hold a rake, someone can participate in any little way they can so that more people are participating. So this group is at least seeing other people around also participating. Is everyone going to have a green thumb? No, absolutely not. But can more people potentially help out so that one person isn't doing a whole bunch of different things? I bet you $100 that the people on the constituency group, is that what it was? are also individuals that are helping out in other areas. Right? Because we can rely on them to do these things, they're reliable. So what's one more plate to spin? Right? But there are other people who I know are also trustworthy individuals here. Maybe they're not even sure how to get involved. Maybe they didn't wait for an invitation or permission. I don't know. But if there's any small thing you can do to help participate in this church family, it might relieve some of the perceived burden that other people are experiencing. And oftentimes, it's the perception of a threat that is powerful. The perception that this is unfair that is powerful. And if other people start to participate, it can challenge that dominant narrative that I'm doing all the work. So, how can we change these relationships? What can I do in my church family? Can you smile? Shake a hand? Learn a new name? Can you sing a bit? Toot your horn? Tingle the ivories? Slap a djembe? I don't know if those are allowed up here. But can you do small things to participate? Absolutely. Can you hold a broom? Walk through a pew? Stack some chairs? Pass a plate? Can you write a note? Can you pray a little? Can you lay some hands? Can you greet some guests? Can you pay attention to the kids? Can you make a Facebook friend? Can you thank a crew? Ask to take out the trash? Lend a hand? Some things may not necessarily require permission or nomination from a nominating committee. I'm not trying to disrupt the structure of the church, but some things you don't have to get official blessing and permission to do. If I'm going to take the trash out after the fellowship dinner, do you need to come and ask Pastor Phil permission to do that? Probably not. Probably not. In fact, when Phil was passing around the sign-up sheet to help take care of everyone here today, he had to do it twice. Hey, can we get some help here? I'm not saying this is bad or wrong. I'm just want to point out that every behavior is a symptom of the system. And if this perpetuates for too long, it can be challenging for the church. And I know we are just coming back from COVID, right? World has changed from pre-COVID to post-COVID. I recognize that. But I'm thinking about the health and participation of this family, and I'm just worried that some people are over-functioning for the group and what's going to happen to the longevity of their participation. That's all I'm thinking about. Okay, let's take a little break, like a 5-6 minute break, and then we'll come back and keep talking about these triangles. So take a bio break, walk around, get some water, and come on back.
You know what? You just got a wiggly line. No, when you were doing that, I was just.
What?
Like what you were saying.
I'm looking at details.
He went to take Rosanna home.
Rosanna's not feeling well, or she's just.
No, it's just that he needed to go home and get the food.
All right, let's come on back and let's continue talking about triangles.
You have that kind
And
of
as we get near the end, we'll talk about what can we do now that we understand stuff about triangles, our role, our position, the stability or instability of the triangles. But I want to look at some more triangles in the story of Abraham and what's going on with his family. So let's open up the big family with Jacob, Rachel, Leah, Leah's sons, Joseph. So we're going to have this little triangle situation here. So we know Jacob preferred Rachel, right? That's clear. And he did not prefer Leah. There was tension between Jacob and Leah. So, and I'm guessing that these two sisters did not necessarily get along, right? There are infertility wars. There's conflict between them. So is this triangle stable or unstable? This is a stable triangle. Awesome, good. And stable triangles resist change. Perfect. So Jacob obviously gets along with Joseph. And it would make sense that Rachel gets along with Joseph. So is this triangle stable or unstable?
I'm sorry.
Good. So Joseph does not get along with his brothers, right? But his brothers prefer Leah, their mother. So there's conflict. There's going to be some tension between Leah and Joseph, the preferred son of her sister. So
Finally,
is
we have
there some,
COVID and
can
we
we
have
move
that.
the microphone away from back there or turn that one off for the moment? Thank you. So far, every single triangle here is stable. We have a common enemy over here, Leah. Leah and Leah's sons have a common enemy, Joseph. Jacob and Rachel have a common enemy, Leah. But we know there's tension between the sons and Jacob as well. And when you put all this together, every single triangle here is stable. That means every single triangle here resists change. Doesn't mean it can't change, but resistant to change. Even though there's a lot of dysfunction in the family. Do we see that? And we can see right down here, there's the dividing line between Leah's side and Jacob, Rachel, and Joseph's side. Right? But things happen to the family, right? Rachel passes away just as Benjamin comes. So just because she passed away, does that mean the anxiety that was linked to Rachel disappears? No, it just gets redistributed amongst the rest of the family members. And I think we can see this happening after she passed away and Benjamin comes. It's only after that that Leah's sons sell Joseph into slavery. It's like that anxiety just gets redistributed amongst the rest of the family members. So Joseph disappears. Just because Joseph disappears, does that mean the anxiety that people have with Joseph also disappears? No, it just goes latent. And something happens within this family. How do I know this? Last night, if you were here, we talked about how Joseph was testing the family system. The second time the brothers came to get food down in Egypt, he sent the brothers home, and out on the way back to Canaan, Joseph sent his preferred servant, chase after them, stop them, and say that someone stole my divination cup. And the brothers all say, well, nobody stole it. You can check all of our packs. Servant goes around, opens all of the packs, finally gets to Benjamin's pack, opens it up, and lo and behold, there's the divination cup. And all of the brothers tear their clothes in protest. This is important because 3 or 4 chapters earlier, when, maybe it was 4 or 5 chapters earlier, when Joseph was sent into slavery, they had ripped his clothes, put blood on it, brought it to his father. His father tore his clothes, but the brothers never tore their clothes. So it's been several chapters, and now they are tearing their clothes at the idea that Benjamin might be taken away from them. Whereas before, they were happy and scheming to make sure Joseph was taken away from them. And this would have been a really good cover story to talk to their father. I'm so sorry, Dad. Benjamin was taken away from us because the viceroy of Egypt caught him stealing the divination cup. There was nothing we could do. But instead, they're protesting, they're in grief, this idea that this person would be taken from their family. Joseph is testing this family. So here's what Bryan thinks happening. I do not know. This is Bryan looking at the story and understanding how families work. This is Bryan's best guess, but you do not have to agree with me. So, Rachel has passed away. Leah is the only wife for Jacob. And we know that when Jacob passes away, he wants to be buried with Leah, not with Rachel. That's an interesting decision for me. I don't know if he was able to repair that. I'm getting some tingles. But for whatever reason, Jacob wanted to be buried with Leah, not with Rachel. So maybe something got repaired here, somewhere down the line. And if that happens, if you change one leg, that also changes other triangles, right? So now Leah, Jacob, and Leah's sons, this becomes an unstable triangle. And Leah, Jacob, and Benjamin, this becomes an unstable triangle. Benjamin is no longer have access to his biological mother because she passed away. And his only full biological brother has disappeared. Maybe there's something that happens here. Well, maybe Leah and Jacob are getting along, and so there's this idea, well, let's treat Benjamin a little bit differently than we have been treating Rachel's sons in the past. Let's not get rid of him. So maybe there's some repair that's happening between Leah's sons and Jacob and Leah and Benjamin. So maybe this family has returned to some semblance of stability. Otherwise, the brothers would not have wanted to tear their clothes. If the brothers were back here, they wouldn't care, right? They wouldn't care. But something has changed in the family system, so now they care about their brother Benjamin. It's hard for me to conceive how this couldn't be the case unless they were just putting on a show, which I don't think they were just putting on a show. I think they were real about tearing their clothes. So something has shifted in the family system, and now it looks like this. So, yes? When he asked about it. Oh, yep. 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 So for all those of you listening online, there's this discussion about how the brothers were pitching to their father, Jacob, look, we have to take Benjamin, and we promise to take care of him. And I think it was actually Judah that might have said something about his own children, putting his own children on the line. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And so this whole idea that, like, we promise to care for him instead of scheming to get rid of him. So that suggests the relation between Jacob's sons and Jacob, between Leah's sons and Jacob. So something has shifted in this family from the time when Joseph was sent away to the second time the brothers come down to Egypt. We don't know how it got here. There's a lot of information we don't know, but it seems like the family system has changed. So we've taken a little mental break early. We're going to move forward with what do we do now with this information. Bryan's been talking a lot. Can we get practical here? What am I supposed to do in my own life? How can we apply this so I can go home today and start to untangle my relationships? And I just want to let you know, some people are not going to like the change. Some people are going to not like the shift that you might have, either your attitude or your posture or your behavior, because they're going to want you to behave the way that you used to behave. They're not going to like this shift. You might have to set some boundaries. You might get protest from them pushing back, which is okay. They're allowed to protest. But they may not necessarily like this plan. And you may not necessarily agree with me, and that's okay. The first step is having a different mindset. Have a different mindset. I understand about triangles now. I understand how they function. I understand that relations are about threes, not twos. I understand I have different roles. I can be an outsider and an insider, and the triangle itself might be pushing for change or resistant to change. So, one of the big things is, where does the problem come from, and whose problem is it to actually fix? Who's responsible for dealing with the problem? Because if I'm spending a lot of energy holding on to other people's hot potatoes, then I may not have enough emotional capacity to deal with my own hot potatoes. We cannot completely avoid triangles. We will always be in triangles. Detriangulation is not about removing yourself from triangles. It's about not being an active participant in the triangles. And that's key. Because if you decide to not become an active participant, to continue passing on anxiety, shoveling anxiety down the road, you can change the way that you and potentially other people handle distress. So let's talk about some of the ways that we tend to get involved and maybe shift to this idea of detriangulation. So before you say or do anything, here's what I want you to do. Remember that there's a chance you are absorbing someone else's anxiety from their unresolved conflict that was not yours to begin with. You're catching it from them. It may not be your hot potato, it's in your lap, but it may not be your hot potato. So, when you suspect that what they're sharing is not your problem, and then when you know that the anxiety does not belong to you, you can start to realize, okay, this is not my hot potato. I need to be aware of this. This is not my hot potato. There are some things that are your responsibility. Your responsibility includes your happiness, your choices, your behavior. These are not your responsibility. You are not responsible for other people's happiness, other people's choices, or other people's behavior. Unless you have small kiddos, then you're partially responsible, right? Because you're trying to train them. But if they're an adult, you're not responsible for these things. You're responsible yourself. So 2 immediate questions to ask yourself. 1, is this my problem? 2, is this my anxiety? If if you can figure out whether it's my problem or my anxiety, those are the two most important first steps. Because if you can recognize, okay, it's not my problem, and I'm catching their anxiety, then it's not my anxiety. It's their problem and their anxiety, and I'm catching it. Second thing, two important tasks to do. One, sketch out the triangle, draw it out, put it in front of you, show the relational lines, if it's jagged or if it's straight, so you can identify, is this triangle stable or unstable? Because maybe you find yourself in an unstable triangle and you go, oh, that's why I'm feeling pressure to pick a side, because the triangle is unstable. Or you see it's a stable triangle, oh, that's why this issue seems so resistant. It may not necessarily be the people in the triangle, but the triangle itself is resistant to change. And that might be partially responsible for the difficulty you're experiencing. And fourth, make a lesson plan. So is this my problem? Is this my anxiety? Draw out the triangle and then make a lesson plan. What does lesson plan mean? It means that this triangle you are in, that you're having an issue with, you'll probably keep re-experiencing it over and over and over. So this is predictable. So make a plan what you're going to do differently, so you don't continue to participate in the same way. And setting boundaries does not mean you're a cold, unloving, or mean. It means you are caring for yourself and also caring for those other people that you love. Sometimes setting boundary can be one of the best things you can do for the other people, the other person coming to you, as well as people behind you that you are fully responsible for. Because you're protecting them from having all these extra hot potatoes that you are bringing home with you from other people. So, the mindset of detriangulation. A, move to the outside position. You can tell yourself things like, oh, I'm not going to be triangled. I know what's really happening here. They're distressed, and I'm experiencing distress because I'm catching their anxiety. But it's not my job to fix it necessarily. It's their job. I'm an outsider. They're an insider. I'm going to try not to take sides. Instead, I'm going to try and be an anxiety dampener. Now, there's a question during one of the breaks is the generator better, or the amplifier better, or the dampener better when it comes to triangles, the different roles? All three of those could be good at different times. So it's not like the dampener is always the best, or the amplifier is always bad, or the generator is always bad. But most of us are pretty good at being a generator and amplifier. We might need a little more practice being a dampener. So my recommendation is practice being a dampener a little bit more so you can get better at that. Then you can judiciously and intentionally choose which role you're going to take instead of just defaulting to whatever role you're typically, whether it's generating or amplifying. So quiet your own emotional reactivity, maintain neutrality, breathe deeply, remain calm, because calmness is also transferable. Here's what's happening. People have too much distress. They try and pass it on to someone else, and they're hoping someone else is going to rescue them from that distress so that they can experience less distress and more calmness. That's what they ultimately want. They're trying to relieve their hot potatoes so they experience more calmness. You can spread your calmness to them without removing their hot potatoes. You can still be calm, and they come to you with their hot potatoes. You can be calm, and your calmness can spread to them, and they can get what they ultimately want. Because triangulation is an anxiety management technique. They're trying to pass on their hot potatoes to someone else who's willing to take it. And so you don't have to take their hot potatoes, but you can still share your calmness with them. And then recognize where you're located in the triangle when it comes to stability or instability, so you can understand all the forces at play. It's not just the other parties, it's also the triangle itself. So, from a neutral yet encouraging stance, you can say things like this. So what are you going to do about it? What do you think needs to happen next? You can be curious, you can be respectful, you can create a safe space, but it's all about you. What are you going to do about it? You're sending the subtle message that it's your hot potato, right? You know, I believe you're resourceful. I bet you'll find a creative way to work through this. What's the first step? And you're really providing them an opportunity to handle their hot potatoes. If you can calm yourself That calmness can spread to them, and sometimes the heat of the potato also cools down, and they're able actually to touch it and think about it. Well, I know you're capable of taking a course of action which will ultimately be in your best interest. What do you think that would look like for you? Notice this second person singular or second person plural language. You, you, you. I'm sorry you're in a difficult situation, but I'm still confident that you two can figure out a way to come to a resolution. What do you think you need to get there? Again, you're providing them the opportunity to think through, to slow down, and start to move in a direction that's going to be helpful for them. Now, some of you might be saying, Bryan, this is a very individualistic approach, where it's you versus me. But I come from a more collective culture, where we are expected to share the burden, and one person's business is everybody's business. You can still use this language in your head by saying we. So, all right, what are we going to do about it? What needs to happen next? But you're really, in your mind, saying you, so you're helping them prompt their potential solutions so that they can work this out themselves. So you can still be supportive. You're not leaving them hanging. You're not abandoning them. But you're also not going to jump in to grab their hot potato. Maybe there are some things they can do with that hot potato. Now, when it comes to safety and well-being, you might have to adjust this, right? Safety and well-being are different. But if it's not an issue of safety or well-being, you can allow them to tie their own shoes instead of doing everything for them. You can provide some good scaffolding and support, but you can't be doing everything for them perpetually, right? So don't let others use you to avoid being responsible for their own decisions. So if you're able to detriangulate yourself, you'll become more aware of the push and the pull of the group in your own emotional reactivity, and you can intentionally act in accordance with your values. And if you cannot react to their anxiety and instead respond in accordance with your values, then you're able to actually provide some perspective on the outside. If you get roped into their conflict and you jump into the middle of it, it's really hard to be objective and see the solution or see the context because you're front and center. But if you're able to be an outsider, you can provide the support, and you might start to wonder, what is the violated value that's at stake here? What's really driving the conflict between people? And during the middle of the conflict, people who are on the inside aren't thinking about this. They aren't thinking about what is really at stake or what's the violated value. They just want the conflict to stop because they want to feel calmer. But as an outsider, you can really slow down and help them think through and reflect upon what might actually be happening for them. You don't have to be on call for whoever wants to dump their anxiety on you. You can set some boundaries. Some people may not like those boundaries, but if you need to set some boundaries for your own health so that you can take care of other people and yourself better, you might need to do this. And your calm unwillingness to be roped into their triangle will model a new and better way of managing anxiety in the relationships in the system. Instead of all of us just passing hot potatoes down the line, shoveling snow from one driveway to the next, we can say, whoa, hold on. That's your snow on your driveway. Oh, that's a lot of snow. Okay. What do you think you're going to do about it? You can be cool, calm, collected without needing to jump in and rescue them. You can help them, you can support them, but oftentimes our short-term coping mechanisms work well short-term. But our short-term coping mechanisms spread out over a long period of time cause some challenges because they're not meant to be long-term, they're meant to be short-term. So last thing we're going to do today, explain it to Charlie. What can I do to detriangulate myself from a challenging triangle? And how could the ability to detriangulate help myself and my church family? right. I'm going to try and close this up, so help me out. What can I do to de-triangulate myself from a challenging triangle? What are some things I can do? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Sketch the triangle,
Uh-huh.
see if it's stable or unstable,
Uh-huh.
and make a plan how I'm gonna be able to just to remove it from that stable or unstable triangle.
Yep.
Or if it's my problem, how I'm gonna start resolving.
Yes. Good. So is it my problem? Is it my anxiety? Because it might actually be your problem, and you've always thought it was someone else's problem, right? That could be helpful. So my problem, my anxiety, sketch out the triangle and have a plan, because you're going to continue to bump into this triangle. So make a plan, right? It's not going to like, whoa, it happened again for the 110th time? What a surprise. No, you know what's going to happen again, so make a plan. And then you try and implement that plan and see how it works. Yeah, do something different from what you've already been doing. Good.
I'm thinking a lot about this, and there's some situations where you can't remove yourself from
Right.
the situation. However, you can definitely dampen the anxiety,
Good.
that hot potato,
Yes.
and probably talk about it. So, what can you do about it?
Uh-huh.
What are some possibilities we can explore? And,
Mm-hmm. And
still
what if-
involved, but calmly,
Yes. So
peacefully.
your calmness can spread to them, which means you have to be able to calm yourself for it to be real calmness, right? When I'm quiet, when I'm upset, my 5-year-old is acting out. If I'm quiet, like my voice is like this, it doesn't mean that I'm calm. And she can sense the difference, right? Right. In fact, if you find that a lot of people come to you because you're generous with your time and your ear and your listening skills, if you find a lot of people come to you and you find you are taking a lot of hot potatoes home with you, you can imagine next time they come to you that there's a trash bin in front of you, and you have your hands here, and when they come and talk with you, boop, it bounces off your hand into the trash bin. Boop, off your hand into the trash bin. It's bouncing off this wall. Boop, boop, boop. Wow, that's a lot of hot potato. This is a big deal. Oh, so much here. Okay. Wow, this is a lot. All right, what should you do with all of this? What's going to happen to this? So you're not like, gimme, gimme, gimme. So in your mind, psychologically, when you're done with the conversation, like, well, I'm leaving those hot potatoes there for them to take instead of taking them home with me. Right.
So what you're talking about is a strategy if you're the outsider.
Correct.
What if you're not the outsider?
And you're an insider?
Yes.
Then deal with your stuff. Don't do the Rebecca method, which is getting someone to dress up like someone else, to trick someone else, to find another solution that doesn't actually address the original distress in the first place. You're going to have to okay, this is an issue. I want to try and address it because I'm partially responsible for this. And you can't control other people. We barely control ourselves on a good day. So hopefully the other person is willing to come to the table, but they may not be. And you might have to say, well, I'm doing my best. I'm open to repairing this relationship, but it doesn't sound like they are, which can be hurtful. But I'm going to maintain this openness that when you're ready, I'm open to talking. I'm not going to force this down your throat. And that can be difficult because you might find yourself in an unstable triangle trying to maintain a good relationship between two other people, or maybe they're mad at you, so you're in the stable triangle, but you don't like the position you're in. Everyone's mad at you, but like, okay, I'm happy to repair, but you two still see me as the enemy. And that's hard. But I'm open to change. I'm open to having a discussion, but I'm not going to force that on you. I've made other attempts. Yes?
Let's say you have someone in your family where you were part of a triangle where you were kind of
An active part of the triangle.
yes, you were actively in it, and then after a while, let's say after learning this, we go and we're like, I'm going to separate myself, but then you still have one of the other members in the triangle coming at you and constantly wanting to throw the hot potatoes at your face.
Yep.
And it just keeps happening even though they're seeing that you're not participating. They get frustrated you're not participating. Is it beneficial to kind of set verbal boundaries and say, hey, I don't want your hot potatoes anymore.
Good question. So there's a lot I don't know about this hypothetical, maybe not hypothetical scenario, right? I don't know if there's safety or well-being involved. There's a whole bunch I don't know. I don't know the history. There's a whole bunch I don't know. But when I hear them, I'm like, there's patterns at play, right? So first thing I'm doing to try and break the pattern is change the way that I address them and I respond to them bringing me hot potatoes, which is, got to calm myself. Okay, here they come again. I know they're going to come. In fact, I can pre-calm myself before they come in the room. Okay, they're calling. I'm not going to answer. Just maybe a moment. Hello? So I'm calling myself before I even talk with them. So that if they try and bring distress my way, I'm already cool, calm, collected already. Instead of, oh boy, what are they going to bring now? I'm already catching their anxiety before they even enter the room. Calm myself, and then okay. All right, using some of the second person singular or second person plural language. Wow, again? I'm so sorry. All right, what needs to happen next for you? What should you do? But if they keep coming, you can say, okay, you can listen to them, and then after they let stuff out, you know, Mikhail, can we talk about this for a second? It seems like every 3 weeks we're having the same conversation. Is that happening? I don't know, I'm just going, okay. So it seems like you keep coming to me to talk about this. And I don't know what to do because it seems like it's your issue and I'm not in charge of your life. I'm not the boss of you. I can't control you or your life. So what's happening here? Let's talk about this. Well, I just need some help. I need some support. Like, okay. So what kind of support do you have? Boom, back to the second person language, right? So we're talking about this process and we're talking about the pattern. We're naming the things that are happening. And hopefully, we can start to have a conversation about, you keep coming to me and you're never tying your own shoelaces. Wouldn't say that bluntly unless you need to. If they totally are just running over you, you can say, look, I need a break. I have so much on my plate right now. Now is not a good time for me to talk. I'm sorry. But I really can't. I'm so sorry. I need some space right now. Doesn't mean I'm abandoning you. I just need a little bit of space to take care of myself. Just for a moment, but let's have another conversation in the future. And you can set some boundaries. Does that help? Okay, good. I have a few more slides, and I want to be done. I want to be respectful of people's time. So if you have a smartphone, I invite you to take it out and fill out a survey for me, 5 to 7 minute survey about your experience here. I read your responses. I'm interested in those responses. I look at them. I do this every month, but I always look at these responses in between. So that I can try and improve what I'm doing, because I'm trying to find the most helpful things to help people understand how to de-triangulate themselves and untangle their relationships. So if you're able to fill that out, that would be helpful. I'm going to switch slides in about 30 seconds. Is it not bright enough? Okay, on your handouts, I think there's something on the back side. There could be a QR code, is that right? So you can use that as well. Maybe you can pass those around. At least.
Go ahead and turn off the lights just for a minute. Go ahead. Is that better? Or
Zoom in, or you can use the back of this. That might be, yeah. There's a QR code on the back of the handouts. So we're going to move that route. Okay, so this is the final meme. I finally found it after 15 years. The scroll of truth. You're catching their anxiety if you're solving their problem. If you find yourself solving their problem, it's because you have already caught their anxiety. So, we'll have prayer, and then I'll stick around for a little bit if we have other questions. I'm happy to answer questions collectively, and then I can do individual after that. Let's pray. Father God, relationships are tricky, and they're hard, and they're sad, and they're painful, but they're also rewarding, and they're rich, and they can be delightful, but it's hard to navigate all this complexity. And God, we can do the best we can, but we can't see the future. We can't force things to happen. And so we need your help. Give us some patience. Give us wisdom. We ask for direction. And thank you for being with us all the time. Amen. done, but I'll stick around for questions. Any other questions people have about triangles? Okay, no questions? Then you're free to go unless there's something else. Awesome, thank you for being here and for participating. It was a blessing for me to be here, and I love the questions that were going on for the small groups, and I love the questions that were being asked during the presentation and the comments. So thank you all for participating. I really appreciate it.